Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another round of interviews with the founders that just finished up the first round of the Paralect Startup Bootcamp. And I'm here right now with James Hutchinson from the startup Lingoers. James, how are you doing today?
You're right, yeah, not bad, thanks. How are you?
Really well, really well. I got to catch your pitch yesterday. How did it go?
Yeah, I think it went, from my perspective anyway, I think it went quite well. Yeah, there were a lot of questions that came afterwards. I tried to keep it under 8 minutes, short and to the point. It's harder, it's easier said than done, but yeah, I think it was quite good.
Awesome. Yeah, you did a great job, in my opinion. So, over the last 4 weeks during the boot camp, what area would you say you've made the most progress? And let's start with the actual idea itself for Lingoers.
Yeah, so at the start of the bootcamp, I didn't know what sort of solution it would be. I was thinking it'd involve video calls of some sort, but I didn't know who the target persona would be. Since obviously having my interviews and speaking with different people, I found out that the ideal sort of person would be an intermediate speaker, because it's conversations over video calls. It should be group calls as well, because there's more conversation, and there should be cue cards because people often struggle with small talk sometimes when having conversations. But yeah.
Very cool, very cool. And for yourself as a founder, what progress have you seen?
So I've been messaging users on competitor apps like Tandem because they're actively looking to improve their language skills. I've reached out to language schools, and I've had a lot of different conversations with both friends and friends of friends who've referred the idea to other people. And I've made a lot of learnings. So it's little things. I think the compounding 10 minutes each day or every few hours adds up. So that's what I'd say. Rather than seeing it as like a massive mountain to climb, it's little steps. So yeah.
All right. And so along the way, there's little steps. What sort of qualitative or quantitative ways have you validated or refined the idea for Lingoers?
Yeah, so to date, from the landing page that I generated at the start, I've had about 35 people sign up to it, which is without any paid ads. That's just organic, me messaging people saying, hey, look at this link, posting on Twitter and LinkedIn. I've had, I think, 14 problem stage interviews now with people asking, literally a 15-minute call, just video chat saying, asking the right questions and like what you currently do at the moment. Not trying to sell Lingoers, but finding out what their current habits are and how they're currently trying to solve the problem. So they're the main two metrics, and qualitative is good feedback in general. Not too much negative feedback. A lot of people are struggling with the same problems. So I think the problem has been validated, at least from my perception and from the numbers. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was happy to join you for one of those problem interviews as a language learner myself. And it was a fun way to give you my perspective on the problems that I've faced. So what were some of the key things that you found through those interviews?
Yeah, so I found out that obviously someone who's listening to this might think, well, what's different about Lingoers compared to other apps like Duolingo and things? And I'd say that I've tried almost like every app that I've searched basically to try and practice Spanish and Italian. So I've given them all a good go. And I found that video calling is the main thing. And especially, I think other apps are good for like learners, like the absolute basics, like Duolingo for the hello, how are you sort of thing, and keywords. But that doesn't make you fluent. So there's definitely a gap I found from speaking to my user panel between people who are like A1, A2 in terms of like international levels of languages, and an intermediate is like B1. And B1 upwards generally means that you can have a conversation, you can live in the country and get by, basically. It should aim for those and above, and language apps leave them for the absolute beginners. Lingo should be for people who are like B1 upwards. They have a conversational level, but they want to get more fluent. That's the main learning, I think, and also whether it should be one-to-one or group video calls. And the learning is that it should be group video calls because there tends to be more discussion, and you can sort of sit back. If you're a bit shy, you can sit back and listen to other natives and people speaking. So yeah.
All right, well, that's great to hear. I'm curious, you mentioned a few times in the first interview different the people that you wanted to emulate and people that you've met in terms of startups and founders, but who else inspires you as a founder?
I think I mentioned this as well in the first interview. I think Stephen Bartlett, I would say, because he released like a few YouTube videos like years ago, like in 2015, I think. And since then, I've been sort of following what he's been doing at Social Chain, and now he's on Dragon's Den. So I watch it regularly, and I like his approach to things. So yeah, he definitely inspires me because he's from a background where it's obviously like less understood and everything, and he's come a long way from where he has been. So he's demonstrated that, and like most things are possible with the right work, but there's sacrifices, so I understand that. But yeah, he's been an inspiration for sure.
Cool. And the goal of the bootcamp, as we described it, was to gain traction in 4 weeks. So in your opinion, have you achieved that goal? And what metrics do you look at to say yes, no, or maybe?
I think simple answer is yes. I think in the bootcamp, I've gained a lot of traction with the help from everyone working behind the scenes. The traction I would say is landing page signups. I've got I think 35 as I mentioned before on there, and also the problem stage interviews. That was sort of the kick of motivation that I needed, because it's little things like that you sort of you get motivated by doing action. Well, I certainly do anyway. You see results. Oh, okay, this is possible. You see it happening, and so yeah, I think I validated the problem, and that's in terms of learning what people want, what matters, what doesn't matter. There's quite like specific things as well which I've picked up on, like people like to know how their learning style is. So if they like to be corrected on everything they do wrong, or if they like to just go in a sentence and flow, and if I do 5 or 6 grammar mistakes, it doesn't matter as long as you understand me. That's how I like to learn. Some people like to be corrected constantly. And it's a few little facts like that I've learned from the problem stage interviews, and I'd call that traction in terms of learnings.
Very cool. If you could get in the time machine and go back to the beginning of the boot camp, are there any things that you would do differently the second time around?
So I've had to think about this, and I tried, well, myself and a friend tried doing this concept back in 2017. It was called Lingo Online. And the issue is you need a network effect for a social media platform to gain traction, really. And the way around that is focusing on a niche. So the niche that I think I should focus on is Spanish and English speakers. So rather than going for every single language, like there's loads of languages, focus on the most popular ones. So I think English and Spanish are very, very widely known. So I think to start with, I would not target Italian, not target French people, just go English or Spanish, and then have them in my user panels. That's what I'd do differently, to focus more of my attention on that. I expand.
All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what was your favorite webinar or workshop during the course of the boot camp, and why?
It's a difficult one because, in my opinion, they're all really useful. So I can't really, if I had to pick out sort of one, I would say the problem stage interview, where you're what kind of questions to ask. Don't sell them the solution. You're not speaking to people to say, look, pay me money for this idea. You're saying, hi, I've got this idea, rough idea. The less they know, the better, because then they're not just going to say yes to please you. And then asking about their current habits and their current, what they're using at the moment. Are they using Duolingo, Memrise, what they like about it, what they don't like? So that was really useful and sort of brought back memories of my time when I was doing that as a product manager at Nova. So it's nice and refreshing.
All right. And you've already described a few aspects of this, but I'm curious, what is your vision of Lingoers now as sort of the first version of the product?
Yeah, so obviously at this point, the end of the bootcamp, the sort of goal is to win an MVP. However, failing that, if I do, brilliant, but if not, then so be it. But I have an idea to build an MVP using possibly Bubble, or a combination of solutions that you can stick together using no code. It's like Google Sheets for the database of people, a lot of like Calendly for scheduling, Zoom, and a simple landing page. So I think that's all you need really, because the question is, I think an MVP is what's the smallest and the thing you can create with the least resources like time and money to answer the questions that you've still got and assumptions. So I think there's a lot of assumptions that still haven't been tested. So I think to answer your question, in the next few months, I think a basic MVP has been built. There's users actively using it. I can't put a number on it right now because it's hard to know at that point, but there's people using the MVP, returning, coming back to it, and there's good quality feedback from them.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to following that progress. And but you've just finished your pitch. Let's go back and wrap up on that point. How do you think it went? And what would you change if you were going to pitch Lingoers again in the future to investors or another accelerator, for example?
I suppose I think it went quite well. The things I got a lot of questions about the fundamental concept of how the video calling works and what would encourage what the incentive would be for a native speaker like myself to go on and speak in English for a bit while I traded my time. So I didn't go into much detail about that. The questions came and sort of unraveled the detail. But I think if I was to change it, I would add a little bit more detail about how it works in the sense that it's group calls. You can schedule a group call. It's maximum of 6 people, and there's 3 natives and 3 non-natives, and they can all practice. And the idea is, the idea is to resemble a language exchange in real life, which I've been to a few times, in that you have like half an hour speaking Spanish, half an hour speaking in English, and both parties get to exchange and practice their speaking. So I'd be more clear on that so that investors didn't ask what the concept is, because that's overall the idea, isn't it? And yeah, I'd just try and make sure I got my point across in as concise as possible, which is very difficult. But I think I just about got there yesterday, but we'll see.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I wasn't really clear as I watched the pitch as well. I was like, what is the mechanics here? Why would I want to do this? But once you explained it in the follow-up questions, it made a lot more sense. So that's almost everything I have to ask you about. But what is some feedback you would have for the Bootcamp team here at Paralect? Obviously, this is version 1, so this is our MVP of the Bootcamp. So what do you think we could improve for batch 2?
I think, first of all, my feedback is very positive for Paralect. Thanks for all the help that you've given so far, the designs, everything, the sort of mentoring and that. In terms of improvement, I would say use more case examples. I only thought about this earlier today, actually, so I didn't put it back on the form, but I would say, yeah, use more case examples, because it's good sort of saying, look, this is what you can do. But if you show like, oh, this is what this founder in the past cohort did, and this is a success that they got from it, that would be perfect. So now you've got like, obviously, myself and the other founders of this cohort. If you use examples from that and show the next cohort, look, this is what they did and this is the result from it, I think that'd be very useful for them, just so that they can see the action and the sort of benefits of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and we'll have to think about that, because we do obviously have a history of startups that we've worked with, and they succeed in different ways, but there are definitely some lessons that we can learn to give you guys more real life examples as it goes on. So that's a good idea. Thanks for that.
Always.
All right. Well, James, thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to following the progress on Lingoers. We'll put links to your landing page and your social media profiles in the show notes for this, and of course, share it with the rest of our network. So thank you so much, James, and congratulations on finishing the bootcamp.
Perfect. Thanks, John, and thanks for your time, and thanks for having me on.
Right on. Bye-bye.
See you later.